Now, I have in front of me the latest boy band. They're called An Embarrassment of... No. You could be a boy band, because you are all male, but maybe boy is stretching the point slightly. Normally we have two people in to talk about the newspapers, stories in the papers. Today we have three. I'm delighted to welcome Mathew Hulbert, heard from you already about this lovely service in Hinckley. We'll catch up with you again in a minute. Mathew is the chair of the Board of Trustees at the LGBT Centre in Leicester. In the middle is George Ballentyne, a member of the local Baha'i community and all-round good guy.
Oh, good morning.
And over here on the right-hand side is Shokat Adam, who works for a national organisation called MEND, M-E-N-D, which stands for Muslim Engagement and Development.
Good morning.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for being here. Now, where are we going to start? I don't mind. I've got Oscars as the top story.
So they're having a lot of trouble, aren't they, at the Oscars? They've had all sorts of issues, and the latest one is that some whiz kid at the Academy Awards has decided that because the show takes so long and they've been losing viewers over recent years, that some of the, less celebrity-based awards will be shown during the adverts. This has caused a massive backlash. With some big stars such as Brad Pitt and others saying, no, this is our craft, and just because it'll be not someone well known collecting those awards doesn't mean they shouldn't be shown live. And so I do feel a wee bit sorry for the Academy Awards. I mean, they do seem to be making some rather odd, silly decisions, but I do wonder if it's even going to take place this year. There's so much going on. They've not got a host.
Have they not got a host?
By the way, I'm available
Matthew,
if they want
you'd
to.
be brilliant. You'd be, or we could double head it.
Wouldn't that be fabulous?
Seriously, because I need a new frock.
Let's sort that out.
I think, yes, we'll
we can perform on stage
up
as well.
Yes.
As a band.
George,
what do you
yes,
reckon?
exactly. The Embarrassment of Riches debut.
Well, it's not the embarrassment, it's an embarrassment. That's a marketing thing because you get in under the letter A. And I've checked.
He's thought it all out.
I have checked on Spotify. There's no band listed on Spotify under the name An Embarrassment of Riches. And I can just see it on billboards already. And between the three of us, we just need a drummer and we're away.
That would be, but why? I could just tap. I have a tambourine. Does that count?
Yep, we could do a few Salvation Army numbers.
And I would just stick me at the back. No one even needs to know I'm there.
But the story that Matt's picked up about the Oscars, I understand that they've actually changed their mind and under pressure from big figures like Martin Scorsese, but it's still an important story because in one of the papers, the Sunday Telegraph today, it describes them as minor Academy Awards. Yeah. And we were talking about this in the green room. And minor means you won't recognise the person picking it up. Yeah. I've got a son who's he's doing film studies at DMU. He idolises cinematographers. I think he wants to be a cinematographer professionally. That's one of the awards. I used to be an editor working in the book publishing industry. And editing is one of the awards as well. So they thought they could just kind of smuggle these out while you're watching adverts for, funeral home services or something. The Academy is something much bigger than just faces and frocks and hairdos. And it's this idea of the trivialisation of arts and culture that people like Scorsese and Brad Pitt have taken on with this. And I'm glad to see that they've won, but there'll be some daft idea next year that they'll come up with that, animation isn't a proper cinematic art and they'll present that.
But again, I feel a bit sorry for them, George, because in terms of the host, which I believe was going to be Kevin Hart, wasn't it? And then they found some homophobic tweets, and he kind of did a half apology and all of this. I mean, they try and get someone that they think is going to be funny and bright and entertaining, and then they find that there's this thing in the past which people have rightly condemned, and so the Academy Awards organisers have a really tough job, don't they? In truth, let's be absolutely honest, and they try and do the best. No doubt they have pressure on them from the TV companies in America that show the awards. And so I do have some sympathy for them. But a decision like this, I don't know how they would justify it.
How would you have felt about Kevin Hart presenting, knowing what he'd put out in the past?
If he had come out and said, this was however many years ago, and I'm genuinely sorry to the LGBT plus communities, and I'm on a process of learning and understanding, I'd have been fine with that.
Yeah.
But he went on Ellen, a bit ashamed that Ellen DeGeneres had him on her show, and effectively said, this was a long time ago, folks, get over it. Well, no, I'm sorry, I won't get over homophobia. I'm sorry, I won't. Never, ever acceptable. Apologise, move on. don't try and say, you know, this was a long time ago. Forget it. No, I won't, I'm afraid.
Yeah, it's one of those hands-up moments, isn't it, really?
And what he's saying is the equivalent of an Oscar-winning song, isn't it? Let it go.
Indeed.
Whereas it's more like sorry seems to be the hardest word.
Isn't he?
He's good, isn't he?
He's like a pro.
I've been up a long time. I'm into my stride.
He writes some of our songs, not all of them, by the way.
No, absolutely not.
He thinks he's John Lennon.
That's the last person.
Shokat, give me one of your stories. What have you found?
I was looking at a story that really caught my eye because I can sort of relate to it. Is NASA are looking to send humans to Mars.
Oh.
But what they're looking for is a class clown. Somebody who's a bit of a joker, somebody who has a bit of a laugh, who can pull everybody together. Because apparently going to space is very stressful and people fall out because they're away from home for probably decades. So they need somebody who's a real clown class, who's a real joker, who has a big nose and hair, big hair and all the rest of it. But unfortunately, you have to be very, very clever as well and be good at maths and be good at physics. So that bit I kind of fell out on. But the funny bit, I think I really, really enjoyed that bit.
Do the two go together? Well, I think we all know the person in our classes at school, however long ago it was, I'm guessing various times. But there was the class clown who was, in fairness, very rarely the class swot.
Yes.
It's a fine line to tread to be clever and funny.
Guess who it was in my class?
It was you, wasn't
well,
it?
Yeah, it's an interesting story, but this whole idea that you need some kind of human dimension. You know, when you're travelling through the cosmos like this. We're in the middle of the comedy festival in Leicester. Maybe we should have a prize for who would you like to see fired off into space. If it was me...
Or who would you go to space with?
Well, if it were me who was doing this, I'd be fired out the porthole, you know, the airlock rather, after 24 hours, I'm sure of it. So whoever's doing it, had better have a blooming big joke.
But doesn't life on the moon feel attractive with the world that we currently have? I mean, actually, perhaps just being away from it all.
No, Matthew. No? I don't think we deserve another planet.
Well,
I really don't. Well. We've made such a mess of this one. Don't let's start shooting off into space and ruining another one.
And on about that, can we talk about those wonderful young people from yesterday, was it, or the day before? And, you know, I really do think with generations that have said they were going to do something about climate change but haven't, and shame on us for that, isn't it fantastic that we've got young people who, yes, have missed a day of school, but have said, we care and you will do something about it, or if not, you know, we'll grow up and we'll stand for election and we'll take those political positions. And, you know, the response of some of the establishment, oh, you should be in school. I mean, come on.
Yeah, they're missing double maths, apparently, which I'm sure they were devastated about.
Shocking.
But that was the story that I was, really interested in, because over 10,000 young children marched on the street. And for me, I think when we look across the channel, we see the French, they're constantly on the streets, and they're always arguing or fighting or revolting or marching against something or another. Whereas our country here is going through a lot of turmoil, and we're all very, very British about it and very polite about it. So this was good to see, because the young people do get a little bit bad press, and they're always in their Facebook pages or on the internet or looking at their mobile phones. But to see them on the street and passionately scream and shout about something they care of gives us a little bit of hope.
Slogans were brilliant. Well, I've seen more effective cabinets in IKEA, said one of them. I mean, there was just...
Well, that person's got a future on the Mars mission.
Definitely. Yes, absolutely. Yes. Just on that subject, but off that subject, there was a story I heard on Friday that I think it's British Aerospace have developed this brilliant harpoon that can gather rubbish. And I thought, this is amazing. This is going to clean our oceans. Well done. No.
Clean up the cosmic space.
They're going to clean up space.
That's for satellites, yeah.
And you just think, gosh, we really have made a mess of everything, haven't we?
Yeah.
But I did wonder if this harpoon could be used in the oceans, because I mean that's one of the biggest concerns for me. But
going forward to what you said, then hopefully if there is life on other planets, we don't find it, because otherwise we will sort of ruin their lives as well.
Absolutely, seriously, we've blighted.
We'll be hiding.
Wouldn't it? I do think those kids have got a point.
But we do need the next generation to come and save us, don't we? Do you not think?
Yes, definitely. But I think we need to give them a chance to do it. Yeah. And there was a lot of sneering, a lot of kind of, oh, children, and what do they know? And it's all so easy when you're 15. Yes, it is easy when you're 15. Why does it become so complicated when you're 30? If you can do something about it when you're 15, do it.
But you know what annoys me is that these are the young people who, they didn't cause the financial crash. they didn't cause Brexit. In fact, many of them weren't allowed to vote. I think we've had a different decision if they had been allowed to. You know, these are the young people who I campaign for youth services to be restored. They've been cut all across the country and axed completely in some parts of the area. I mean, you know, they have a really tough time of it. And yes, previous generations fought in wars and all of that, and you know, you can't compare time with time. But things are tough for our young people these days, and yet they are still caring and passionate and principled. Thank goodness for them.
Yes.
More power to them.
Yes. George, you have a death to report for us.
Yes. Now, this might seem a bit obscure, but I was really touched by this. It's the Swiss actor Bruno Ganz, who's died at the age of 77. I first saw Bruno Ganz in a film in 78 called The American Friend, a Wim Wenders adaptation of one of the Ripley books by Patricia Highsmith. And I was completely smitten with this fellow. He's the most incredible actor. And I've followed him quite avidly ever since. The face is known to more people than watch German language movies, but they probably wouldn't connect the face with the name. He's the actor who plays Adolf Hitler in Downfall, which was the story of Hitler's last days in the bunker. Now, from a kind of cinematic point of view, this was the first feature film that was made about Hitler in Germany since the war. But it's better known to most people because it spawned a host of internet parodies. The part in the film where Hitler is informed by his generals for the first time that the war is not exactly going to his plan, and he does his nut at them, has been parodied in a little 3-minute clip, which has been everything since the sacking of a football manager, a breakup of bands. We had them locally, not yet.
No,
we've got the formation of our band got him that response.
We've got at least 3 good weeks in us before that happens. Even the demolition of the Bowstring Bridge locally and the sacking of Claudio Ranieri, and it's got, you know, Hitler, he does that famous thing where he takes his glasses off and crunches them against his face. But Bruno Ganz, to me, was, I mean, he symbolised kind of the classiness of Europe, really. Swiss, but made his name in German-speaking films. Perfectly good in English. He's made a number of English-language films. But his passing, really, it's just every week there's another hero from my youth who just disappears. And this one has been marked beautifully. I watched it this morning. There's actually on YouTube, under the Downfall Internet Parodies page, someone telling Bruno Ganz as Adolf Hitler that Bruno Ganz has died. Now, you could say in a certain sense, well, you know, the internet is going to disappear, you know, up its own provider, somewhere, as it were.
Yeah. But it's harpoon is going to get it in space.
There's nothing, it's not done in a funny way at all. It's actually quite a moving and touching thing.
Bet.
And it turns that whole parody on its head. If you haven't seen a Bruno Ganz film, I would definitely say check it out. And the one I would start with is The American Friend, which is my favourite film of his, that you can find on you know, certain streaming services.
Indeed, yes.
I definitely recommend that people check him out while he's still fresh in the news.
And how old was he when he died?
77.
Oh, bless.
But you had a story about the ring, the special ring.
Yeah, apparently it was a Lord of the Rings type of story. In the European cinema, they give a ring to the most accomplished and established actor. And he was the person that was in possession of that because he was seen as the finest actor of his generation.
Oh, my word.
And when they pass away in their will and testimony, they say this will be the next actor, so who will be receiving it. So he or she will be about to hear who's going to be the next.
My
now, I didn't know that until I heard from you this morning. It's always a pleasure to find out something new on a subject that you thought you were an expert in, so I'm grateful for that.
Oh, you see now your appearance on Mastermind, you go on and do,
yeah.
but it is, you're absolutely there. Now, after the news at 8 o'clock, we're going to be focusing on mental health, but I know, George, mental health was an issue you wanted to bring up from the papers today.
Right, hardly a moment to sip the coffee before that.
Sorry.
Yeah, on the front page of the Daily Mirror today, and usually you have to dig around to get the kind of stories I'm interested in, but from the front page of the Sunday Mirror, about Piers Morgan mocking Ant McPartlin because of his mental health issues. Now, I don't like that kind of ad hominem approach to news stories, but I just think that the last time I was in here, Piers Morgan featured as well because of his loathing of the vegan sausage roll. So he's just this kind of walking bundle of nervous, anxious anger, which focuses, it's like a scattergun. It just hits whatever target it goes off facing. And the idea that people, anyone, celebrity or not, who's suffering some kind of mental health issue should be splattered all over the media as if somehow it's a joke or it's their fault or it draws some kind of moral conclusions about them. You'd like to think we're past that kind of thing by now, but the flame is being kept alive, really, by certain individuals. And I think it's really good to have this story so upfront, so foregrounded today in one of the red-top tabloids on a Sunday. And with it being about Ant, that will touch a lot more people than if it was buried somewhere on page 12 as a kind of report from the Department of Health or something.
Very true.
One of the issues about Piers Morgan is that he's a big believer in, using these phrases of, oh, man up, or oh, grow a pair, or whatever it is. And I just think, with the best will in the world, we have a situation now, and it always amazes me that this isn't top of the news kind of every day and on every front page, where, the biggest killer of men under 50 is suicide. And, it is a real national tragedy and, in my view, a national emergency. We're losing a whole generation of men who are taking their own lives. And actually, we all have mental health, good or positive or otherwise. And actually, I think, especially for us guys, we do need to be talking about it more. If we have a problem, we do need to be saying, if we're feeling low, we do need to be talking about that. And Piers Morgan, a great controversialist, and if that's what he wants to be, then I guess he's successful in that. He gets lots of column inches. But his words have consequences, and he should think about that.
It's hard for me with the mental health thing, because I think that we are, as a society, I think we're a lot more talky, and we can put things out there in so many different ways. You can blog and do all sorts of different things, and yet it seems that the problems are still there. So talking it through isn't always the way that's going to sort things out.
That's what we're encouraged to do all the time, but can only go so
but
far.
Who do we talk to?
It's part of a kind of multi-layered, multi-platform approach, and just talking for the sake of talking just puts you in a dead end. There's got to be something that comes after it. But I do agree with what Matt said there, that words have consequences. In a certain sense, they can hurt and damage people more than, you used to have that old phrase, sticks and stones would break my bones, but words will never hurt me. Well, we know now, if we didn't know before, that's definitely not true. And people just have to be a bit more aware of what they're firing off at whom and the damage it will do.
Indeed.
And going back to your point, talking is the first step of a multi-layered approach of tackling mental health or any other issues as well. And men, and I'm sure women too, especially in the society that Mathew was talking about, we are told not to talk about things, Nobody wants to hear about it. We're all too busy. Just man up, etc., etc. And when you have a celebrity like Piers Morgan saying it on the front page or on television, I don't know what his attraction is. Do you know what it is?
Well, I think it is just that he likes to be in the centre of things. He likes to be in the middle. I've heard him say he likes to be in the middle of a controversy, and so he makes sure he is.
So, and he puts the controversy out there.
To what end?
So does he just play devil's advocate, and he doesn't really believe half the things he's saying?
I feel like that's how I get it.
That phrase that people in his situation use, I'm only saying what everyone else is thinking. I don't believe that for a minute.
No.
So I think stuff that needs to be pushed to
Got
the
nothing
sidelines.
positive to say, don't speak.
Well done. I like that Thumper's attitude in Bambi. If you haven't got nothing nice to say, don't say
Another
it.
cinematic
Thank you guys very much indeed. I wish you continued success, and when the boy band actually takes off, do please come back and see us.
First grizzled baldy boy band on earth.
I was going to say, that's very harsh. Have a great Sunday. Mathew,
Thank you.
very quickly remind us your church service today
3
is...
o'clock today, St Mary's Hinckley, LGBT History Month.
Lovely stuff. Thank you very much indeed.